3 a.m., the screaming match next door made it impossible to sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, fighting the urge to go over there and strangle the whole family. Finally, I gave up and popped half a sleeping pill. By 7 a.m., I was dragging myself to work with a splitting headache. As I stumbled down the hallway, I overheard the neighbors gossiping in hushed, frantic tones. "Did you hear midnight last night? Everyone in apartment 5B was slaughtered." I froze in my tracks. I live in 5A. When my alarm had gone off earlier, something felt off. The air in the apartment felt heavy. Wrong, but I didn't have time to dwell on it. I had to get to the office. Stepping out my front door, the metallic tang of blood hit me instantly. Police tape crisscrossed the door of 5B. A crowd of uniformed officers blocked the hallway. I accidentally locked eyes with an older detective. His gaze was sharp, cutting through me like a scalpel. I just stared back, blank-faced. My eyes barely opened from exhaustion. The sleeping pill hangover was real. I felt like I was floating in a fog. Honestly, I didn't care if the people in 5B were dead. Good riddance. I fantasized about killing them every single day, every night. At midnight, like clockwork, they started their noise. I work in high-pressure e-commerce, and I suffer from severe insomnia and neurasthenia. They were torturing me. I'd written polite notes. They ignored them. I called the cops twice, but the second the police left, the husband from 5B would pound on my door screaming obscenities. "Was you, wasn't it? You bitch? Open up. I've got a cure for your insomnia right here." He'd hammer on my door with a baseball bat, terrifying me into silence. I wanted to move, but my landlord held my security deposit hostage. I had to finish the year lease. So if 5B is dead, I don't care how it happened. I'm just glad I might finally get some sleep. I'm in the lobby. The gossip was spreading like wildfire. "Did you hear 5B? Whole family dead." "Really?" I heard it was around 1 a.m. A chill ran down my spine. Wait, if they died at midnight or 1 a.m., why did I hear them fighting? At 3 a.m., an elderly woman, Mrs. Higgins, chimed in. I was up early for the market. I saw the bodies when they wheeled them out. Lord have mercy. It was gruesome. The husband had his eyes stabbed out, face covered in blood. The wife had a knife in her chest. I gasped, the fog in my brain clearing instantly. I have a weak stomach. I can't handle blood or horror. Hearing the details made me nauseous. I covered my ears, rushed out of the building, and squeezed onto a crowded subway car, trying to drown out the world. That evening, I got home late, exhausted. I opened my laptop to put in some unpaid overtime, when a knock echoed through my apartment. "Police, open up." My heart skipped a beat. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Never had the cops at my door. But considering I shared a wall with a murder scene, it made sense. I opened the door. A young officer and the older detective from this morning stood there, sizing me up. Can I help you?" I stammered. The older detective, Detective Miller, smiled tightly. "Just routine questions, ma'am. Don't be nervous. You want to come in?" "It's a bit messy," I offered. "Here's fine. You are Emily Vance. What do you do for a living? How long have you lived here? Do you live alone?" "Yes. I work in a commerce operations here 6 months. I live alone." "Where were you last night at midnight?" I grabbed my laptop and showed them the timestamp. 12 a.m. I just finished work. Shut the computer and went to bed. The young officer scribbled in his notepad. "So after midnight, you were alone with no alibi?" I frowned. "Technically, yes. But are you suspecting me just because I live next door?" Miller shrugged. "Standard procedure. We have to ask everyone. How was your relationship with 5B? "Terrible." I admitted they were loud. "I called the cops on them. Before you can check the records." Miller nodded, a smirk playing on his lips. "We will. We verify everything." I took a deep breath. I had nothing to hide. "Officer, when exactly did they die?" The neighbor said midnight. But I swear I heard them fighting at 3 a.m. That's why I took a sleeping pill. Both officers stiffened. Miller's eyes narrowed. Are you sure? Could you hear what they were saying? I shook my head no. Just the usual screaming. Cursing each other out, the young officer wrote furiously. Did you hear anything else in the hallway? Doors opening, heavy objects falling. I heard the guy from 5B go downstairs once. Probably to throw out trash. I don't know the time. Miller nodded slowly. All right, the killer hasn't been caught yet. Keep your doors locked. Don't leave town. They turned to leave. I started to close the door. But Miller spun around, his hand catching the frame. The killer could still be in the area. You live alone right next to the crime scene. Aren't you scared? Why stay here? What kind of question was that? My phone started blowing up with Slack notifications. My boss, of course. I'm scared, I snapped. Anxiety rising. I'd love to stay at the Ritz. But who's paying for it? Besides, with you guys swarming the place. This is probably the safest building in the city right now. I have to work. Can you close the door for me? I rushed back to my laptop. I worked until midnight, fueled by panic and caffeine. When I finally lay down, the silence was deafening. Usually the noise from 5B kept me up. Now the silence was worse. Kept imagining the bodies on the other side of the wall. I couldn't turn off the lights. I was too scared to take a pill in case I needed to run. Then I heard it. Footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate. They stopped right outside my door. Tap, tap. I stopped breathing. Tap, tap. Then. And the footsteps walked away. I lay frozen in a pool of cold sweat until the sun came up. The next morning, I dragged myself out the door, praying for a meteor to hit the office so I wouldn't have to go in. Instead, I ran into Detective Miller. He was leaning against the wall, holding a greasy paper bag of bagels and coffee. He looked like he hadn't slept either. First, he held out a bagel. I bought extra. I'm late for work, I said. He blocked my path. Call in sick or I can call them for you. My heart hammered against my ribs. Why are you seriously suspecting me? Look at me. I'm 100 pounds. Soaking wet. The guy in 5B was a tank. How could I kill two people? And why? Because they were loud. Miller looked around the hallway, then lowered his voice. You really want to discuss this out here? Let's go inside. I had no choice. He came in, tossed the bagels on my table, and I started eating. I was starving. While I chewed, I texted my boss that I was sick. Miller wandered around my apartment. You don't wear makeup. I'm a corporate slave. I don't have the energy. I get it. He watched me wolf down the food and chuckled. Bad news, Emily. All the evidence points to you. Want to save us some time and confess? I choked on my coffee. Are you joking? I'm not confessing to something I didn't do. I take the blame for stuff at work all day. But I'm not taking the fall for a double homicide. Miller sat across from me. Do you have any hobbies? TikTok, YouTube. I watch videos to fall asleep or on the commute. Do you watch pimple popping videos? Ingrown hairs, hoof trimming? I grimaced. God, no. I saw one once and almost threw up. Disgusting. Miller leaned in. The murder weapon was something. Like a stainless steel condom extractor. A pimple popper. I checked your Amazon history. You bought a professional grade kit last month. I don't see it in your bathroom. Where is it? Oh, that I thought back. I heard they were good for blackheads. It didn't work. So I tossed it somewhere. I lose everything. Wait. You can kill someone with a pimple tool. Depends on how you use it. You can't stab a knee with it. But he pointed to his eye. Then his throat. Stop. I gagged. I don't want to know. You're eating a bagel pretty happily. For someone with a weak stomach. Fear isn't the same as disgust. I countered. Look. Someone is framing me. It's the perfect setup. Miller sighed, wiping crumbs from his mouth. I hope you're right. The weirdest thing is, nobody in the building heard a sound after midnight except you. You heard 5B go downstairs. He stood up. Get some sleep, Emily. I wish there were no bad people so you could sleep too. I muttered, actually feeling bad for him. He gave me a long, unreadable look. Yeah, me too. He still suspected me. I slept until noon. Worked from home until midnight. And was just about to crash when the knock came again. Police, you need to come with us. My stomach dropped. I opened the door to find Miller. And two uniformed officers. Am I under arrest? Not yet. Miller's face was grim. But we found something in your trash. He held up an evidence bag. Inside was a stainless steel pimple extractor, covered in dried blood. That's not mine. I never threw that away. Someone put it there. The young officer from before, Officer Chin, shifted uncomfortably. We also have footage of you buying sleeping pills at the 24-hour pharmacy at 2:47 a.m. the night of the murders. My blood ran cold. I wasn't there. I was home. I heard them fighting at 3 a.m. Miller studied me. Emily, the pharmacy is 3 blocks from here. The timestamp matches. And the clerk identified you. Someone wearing a black hoodie. Same build, same height. I grabbed my phone, scrolling frantically. I have sleep tracking data. My phone never left my apartment. Look. Miller glanced at it. Could have been left behind while you went out. He wasn't listening. I felt the walls closing in. Wait. Can I see the pharmacy footage? Miller hesitated, then showed me his phone. A figure in a black hoodie. Head down, walking to the counter. But something caught my eye. The person's gait. The slight limp on the left foot. I know that walk. Who? Miller leaned in. My landlord. Marcus Webb. He limps from an old construction injury. He's been trying to get me out for months. Wants to renovate and double the rent. Why would he kill 5B? They were behind on rent too. 3 months, actually. And he knew about my fights with them. He knew I'd be the perfect scapegoat. Miller was quiet for a long moment. Where does your landlord live? Unit 1A. Ground floor. Miller turned to Chin. Get me everything on Marcus Webb. Then he looked at me. Don't leave town. I wasn't planning on it. They left. I sat on my couch, shaking. The adrenaline crash hit me hard. I tried to work, but couldn't focus. Around 3 a.m., I heard it again. Footsteps in the hallway. This time, they didn't stop at my door. They kept going. To the stairs. I crept to my door and pressed my ear against it. Nothing. Then, muffled sounds from below. I grabbed my phone and dialed Miller. He answered on the first ring. Someone's in the building. I heard footsteps going downstairs. Stay where you are. I'm on my way. I locked my door and pushed a chair under the handle. Then I heard it. A scream cut short. From the lobby. I couldn't just sit there. I opened my door and crept down the hallway. The police tape on 5B had been torn. The door was ajar. I shouldn't look. I looked anyway. A body on the floor. My landlord, Marcus Webb. A knife in his chest. His eyes wide open, staring at nothing. I stumbled backward. Right into Miller. He caught me before I fell. I told you to stay put. He's dead. He's dead. I know. I found him 10 minutes ago. He called 911 before he died. Said he had information about the 5B murders. Information that would clear you. Miller guided me back to my apartment. What information? We don't know yet. But we found this in his pocket. He showed me a small recording device. It was still running. Miller pressed play. A voice came through, tinny but clear. It was Marcus Webb. I killed them. Both of them. The wife first, then the husband. They were going to report me. For the illegal renovations. The mold problem I never fixed. They threatened to go to the city. So I shut them up. Then I heard the girl next door. Emily. Perfect. She hated them. Everyone knew. I planted the weapon in her trash. Bought the sleeping pills myself. Wore a hoodie, made sure the clerk saw. But she heard them. At 3 a.m. She heard them. But they were already dead. How? I don't know. Maybe she's lying. Maybe she's crazy. Doesn't matter. She's the perfect suspect. The recording ended. I sat there stunned. He confessed to everything. But why did he call 911 tonight? Miller's expression darkened. Someone else was in that apartment with him. Someone who killed him. We found another set of footprints. Fresh ones. A third person. I felt cold all over. You mean there's another killer out there? Miller nodded slowly. Webb killed 5B. But someone killed Webb. And they're still in this building. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know you heard the recording. You need to disappear. I showed Miller. His face went pale. We need to get you out of here. Now. He grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the door. But I stopped. Wait. The footsteps. The ones I heard at 3 a.m. the night of the murders. If Webb killed them at midnight. Who was I hearing at 3 a.m.? Miller froze. Good question. Then it hit me. The husband from 5B. He went downstairs that night. Webb said he killed them at midnight. But what if he only killed the wife? What if the husband survived? Came back at 3 a.m. And that's when Webb finished him off? Miller was already on his phone. Get forensics back to 5B. I need exact times of death for both victims. He turned to me. You might have just cracked this case. But first, we need to find whoever killed Webb. And whoever sent you that text. We moved quickly down the hallway. Miller's hand on his gun. The lobby was empty. But the front door was open. A figure stood outside. Silhouetted by the streetlight. Small frame. Dark hair. It was Mrs. Higgins. The elderly woman from the first morning. She turned to face us. Her eyes weren't frail anymore. They were sharp. Cold. You should have stayed in bed, Emily. Miller raised his weapon. Drop whatever you're holding. She smiled. I'm just an old lady with a shopping bag. But her other hand came up. A gun. Miller fired first. She crumpled to the ground. I stood there frozen. What just happened? Miller was already at her side, kicking the gun away. Mrs. Higgins. The sweet old lady who saw the bodies. Miller shook his head. She was the only one who claimed to see the bodies being wheeled out. But the coroner's report says they weren't moved until 8 a.m. She lied about everything. But why? Miller pulled a wallet from her pocket. Inside was an ID. Not Higgins. Margaret Webb. Marcus Webb's mother. She lived in the building too. Unit 1B. Right below him. I remembered what Marcus said in the recording. The wife from 5B threatened to report him. But it wasn't just about renovations. It was about Margaret. She'd been living there illegally. Off the books for years. Collecting welfare under a fake name. 5B found out. They were going to expose her. So she killed them. And when Marcus found out, he took the fall for her. But then he got scared. He was going to confess. So she killed him too. And she was going to frame you for all of it. I sat on the steps outside. My whole body trembling. It was over. But I still had questions. The footsteps at 3 a.m. The ones I heard the night of the murders. Miller sat beside me. We pulled the coroner's report. The wife died at midnight. The husband at 3:17 a.m. You heard him dying. He must have stumbled back to the apartment, trying to get help. But no one came. I thought about that. The man who terrorized me for months, pounding on my door with a baseball bat. He died alone, steps from my apartment. And I did nothing. I felt nothing. Miller lit a cigarette. You know, for someone who claims to have a weak stomach, you handled all this pretty well. I looked at him. Fear isn't the same as disgust. He laughed. Right. He stood up. You should move. Get out of this city. Start over somewhere quiet. I nodded. I will. But first, I'm going to sleep for a week. Miller smiled. You've earned it. He walked away. I sat there until the sun came up. For the first time in months, the building was silent. No screaming. No fighting. No footsteps in the hallway. Just silence. I closed my eyes. And finally, I slept.